Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Liberty Bubble. I'm your host, Daniel Nichols. Tonight we have a very special guest on our show tonight. We've got someone from Thomas Road Baptist Church. He graduated from Liberty as a worship major and is serving as a member of the TRBC worship team. Please welcome Julian Kim. Thanks for being on our show, Julian.
No, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Julian, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from and where did you grow up?
So I am from South Korea. I immigrated to the States when I was 4, back in '99, with my family, and we settled down in the Northern Virginia area, right outside DC. And I just went through the school system there after I graduated high school, came down to Liberty to study music.
Wow, that's awesome. So what got you interested in music?
So I grew up in a musical household. I have a grandpa that used to be a professor at a university teaching music. My dad was part of a band. My cousin also does music out in Korea as a K-pop star. And so with that being said, I just grew up in a musical household, so that's kind of how I got into it as well.
Wow, it sounds like musical talent runs in the family. So I just want to say up front, it's really a pleasure to meet you. And I'm sure you at home would like to hear more about Julian. But first, let's hear a word from our sponsors. Welcome back to Liberty Bubble. Today we have a great musician and worshiper with us, Julian. Julian, I have some questions for you. How have you been doing with music for the past several years? You've been doing it for quite a while, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me, what does music mean to you?
So music, to me, is another language. A lot of people learn different languages when they're in high school or when they go off to college, whether that be like Spanish, French, Korean, Japanese, Chinese. There's all different sorts of languages. But to me, music is also a language. It's a way to speak to my heart a little bit deeper, more than words can. And there was a lot of times in my life where God had used music to speak to me, and it's once you start putting a melody into words, they become lyrics. It speaks to me a little bit deeper. So even when I was younger, in the darkest times of my life, that's kind of how I was able to feel the presence of God, and kind of I realized the power of music and what it has to other people.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I'm curious, to hear more about it. So when you're on the stage, I just want to get a picture in my mind. What are you thinking about? How does the music speak to you as you're up there?
So music is another form of worship for me. It's another way of communicating with God, and through singing praises to the one and only Jesus. He was able to reveal himself through me, especially when I was younger. There were so many times in my life where I felt like I was able to relate to the songs more than a sermon would. And, it's very orthodox of people to, come to Christ through either a sermon or altar call. But for me, he revealed himself through music. And through that, I was able to find him and find the gifts that he has given me, and to use that back to glorify God. One thing that I'll never forget is the song "Your Love Never Fails" by Jesus Culture, and it's talking about how his love never fails. There's nothing that we can do, or what we will do, or what we have done that can separate us from what he has done. And that when Jesus said on the cross that it is finished, he meant that it is finished. It doesn't mean that it's finished, but you're still trapped in this thing. No, like when he freed us, and I was able to really feel that through the music and just the lyrics that Jesus Culture wrote.
Wow. Well, I think that message is just super powerful, and your testimony too. I mean, it tells me a lot about the places that the Lord has led you through in your life, and from what you told me about your family and your cousin and your dad, like, there's a lot of musical talent in your family. And I would just like to ask you kind of directly, how do you plan to use that talent, that gift, to glorify God?
So it's always been a dream of mine to do music. I started music at a young age, so it was always a dream of mine to be able to lead worship, make music, and help people like me, where I got saved through hearing songs of worship. That even if one person can hear my music and the lyrics that God has given to me, and that brings another person to Christ, that's really the main goal. I've always wanted to lead worship ever since I was young, and to be used as a vessel by God is not a right? It's a privilege. It's not one of those things where it's like, hey, I'm a phenomenal musician, I am a Christian, so I deserve to be on stage. No, it's not a right that you have, but it's a privilege that God gets to use a broken person like myself and to bring other people to Christ, and for him to use me as a vessel and as a bridge to lead his people into his throne is just it's an awesome privilege. So for me, it was never about the fame. A lot of people associate the stage with fame and being like, he wants to make himself more known. But for me, it was never, stepping on stage was never about the fame. It was about bringing more fame to the one that deserves it all.
All right. I'd say for Christians, definitely the need for Christ likeness touches everywhere, on the stage, in our own lives, just doing what we do. But and that leads me to something else. I heard that on Instagram you've got 33,000 followers. That's huge. And I'd like to ask you, when you are live streaming on Instagram, are you able to use your musical talent to reach others with the gospel?
So yeah, it's funny because I actually first started lives because I love talking to people. I'm a big extrovert, so I just love just meeting with other people, just conversing with them. And in my lives, I have people all around the world joining. I have people from, Singapore, people from the Philippines, people in the States, people in Korea, China. There's, in the Middle East. I have a very wide variety of people that come by, and so because of that, I was very shy to bring up the gospel. I felt like, okay, if I mention Jesus, the numbers are going to shrink a little bit. The people that come by in the live is going to shrink. And I got lost in the numbers. But one thing I've realized and I got convicted of is that eternity matters a lot more. It's not about, like, who cares if I have a platform here when my life here is so short? And another thing I realized is that no matter what I do, it's like, if it goes well, it'll last about a year or a couple of years, but it's not going to last an eternity. But the gospel, when you bring that truth to someone that hasn't heard it before, that can go for forever. That can last into eternity. And to have a platform, having 33,000 some followers is not a privilege that not everyone has. But for God to give me a platform like that, and for me to not use it to spread the gospel, it sounds pointless to me. So through that, I was able to start doing lives, leading worship, just sharing the gospel, just reading the Bible, and I've had an amazing outcome where people, even from communist countries, are like, hey, I don't have the privilege of looking up a worship song in YouTube, but through your lives, I'm able to come and sing songs of worship, and people are like, hey, I'm come from a Muslim background, I'll get disowned if I believe in Christ, but I don't know what to do, and things like that. So it really awakens me and opened up my eyes to a lot of things.
Wow. Well, I definitely think, what you're talking about takes a lot of humility. And I don't think a lot of people actually realize the, responsibility that comes with being like an influencer, and the kind of impact that your testimony online can have on like Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is. Right. And most of the time when I go on Instagram, you just see all of these people, parading themselves around like celebrities, and they're all, hey everyone, look at me. But for you, you're showing people, hey, there's another way. You don't have to do that. You can take the focus, from yourself and put it on Christ. And I think that's awesome. Well, we're running out of time, but there's one last thing I would like to ask from you. Would you be willing to sing a song for us?
Yeah, I would love to. It'd be an honor, privilege for me to do so.
Well, I'm sure, there's a lot of songs that you could choose, but is there one that really carries a special meaning for you?
For me, I chose the song "Yes I Will," and I chose that because it's a song about how when we're in the lowest of the lows and the darkest of valleys, that we're choosing to say yes. And I think having that kind of spirit is awesome, and to be able to praise God even in the valleys is an amazing thing and can be a testimony in itself. So that's kind of why I chose the song.
In a minute, we're going to hear Julian sing for us, but first, we'll have a commercial break and we'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Julian Kim.
I count on one thing, the same God that never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in the waiting. The same God who's never late is working all things out. You're working all things out. Oh yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valleys. Yes, I will bless your name. Oh yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy all my days. Oh yes, I will. I count on one thing, the same God that never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in the waiting. The same God who's never late is working all things out. You're working all things out. Oh yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valleys. Yes, I will bless your name. Oh yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy all my days. Oh yes, I will for all my days. Oh yes, I
Oh, thank you, Julian.
Thanks for having me.
And for all our viewers out there, have a great night. God bless, and I'll see you next week on Liberty Bubble.